some time to do that. So, ladies, welcome today. This is going to be really awesome because I don't know if you can tell, but Felicia's technically advanced compared to many of us in this community. And she has this awesome slideshow that she's going to be able to show. And it says right there, break the stuck. Is that what it says? I
That's
thought
what
it
it
said
says.
break the stuck. But the stuck. So everyone's felt it at some time in their life. I even felt it, I consider myself a high performer. And when I get in anything that starts shifting me a little bit, right, I will focus on development immediately and work on it. And I just I don't allow myself to get stuck for very long. But I think what Felicia's talking about, we're all going to be educated on today and learn from. And when it comes to talking about money, it's either something that women don't want to talk about or they do want to talk about it, but they only want to talk about it in the very essence of how to earn more. And it's not a spiritual thing or an energy thing. And they're not looking at it from that standpoint. So I am really excited to have her here. Felicia is also one of our featured speakers that's going to be at the Empower and Elevate conference. That is going to be an amazing room that's already filling up. We have over 100 ladies enrolled for that already. So I'm really excited about what the energy and the vibe is going to feel like in that room. If you haven't gotten your ticket, please get your ticket. It's March 22nd. I'll drop those links. But Felicia, you and I connected many, few years ago,
Mhm.
and then kind of been off and on and in connections. And I always forget that she's right here in Arizona in Tucson. And she's a great resource if you need connections or referrals. So make sure you keep that in mind. But I'm going to go ahead and give you the stage and let you be the presenter and take over. And then I'm going to spotlight you for everyone so we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, put it on gallery. Yeah, thank you, Colleen. All right, so let's first of all, I really want to honor and celebrate you, whether you're watching this live or the replay, for stepping away from life coming at you in order to really listen deeply to the life coming and longing to express through you and by means of you. It really is, Colleen talked about when she felt, feels herself getting a little stuck, that she immediately jumps into deeper development. In this circle, that's a common conversation, but it's not a common person. You are truly a tip of the arrow person in your willingness and your dedication for your own continued growth and evolution in order to serve the thing that's coming alive through and by means of you. And so that's what we're getting into today. And so we're going to talk money, and we're actually going to talk full spectrum wealth. Money's a piece of it. We definitely want to include money, especially with women. We have a way of discounting or dismissing money. We want to wrap our arms around that while we're building out a full spectrum wealthy life. All right. So with that said, let's imagine. I want to activate this amazing faculty called your imagination. And let's activate it. Let's get it going by imagining that it's a year from now. And you and I are in a conversation, and maybe I'm where you are, wherever you are as you're watching this, or you're down here in Tucson with me, and we're, looking at the Catalina Mountains as we're having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and you're sharing with me about your life. You love your life. Now, I want you to consider 4 areas, because remember, we're talking full spectrum wealth. One of those areas is your health. Consider your health, your relationships, your vocation. This is primarily why we hang out with Colleen, is to grow our capacity to serve in greater and greater ways as we increase our wealth, to be able to serve with that as well. So your health, your relationships, your vocation. This is how you share your gifts, your talents, your capabilities, whether it's paid or volunteer. Both of those are considered vocation. And then your freedom on your calendar and in your checkbook. We're a year out. Those things this past year has been off the chart amazing. What's the conversation you would love to be having about those 4 areas? I want you to see them in this amazing faculty called our imagination. And I'm going to talk more about just what an amazing gift our imagination is. See those images, really play in them. You got it? That's your life coming to get you. And I want to help you by giving you a 3-part spiritual success system to help you take those images from the realm of your imagination, bring them into the facts of your life, where several times a day you hear yourself saying, oh my God, I love my life, knowing that is your highest service. When you are living a life that you love, you are bringing your highest contribution to the body of humanity. All right. So here's the thing I want you to understand as we build out this unprecedented successful life in all 4 areas. You are meant to live a rich, abundant life. You are wired to thrive. Let me say that again. You are wired to thrive. We are not designed to struggle. Doesn't mean we're not designed to grow and bump up against the edges and transform the edges, but we are not meant. I heard somebody describe it today. I was teaching a course earlier today on revolutionize your relationship with money. And she talked about how she's been on the struggle bus and it's time to get off the struggle bus. You are not meant to ride the struggle bus, the S bus. That is not your bus to ride. We are riding the one that just goes phew right through. You are designed to thrive. And then to understand that you have been given everything required to live this rich, abundant, fulfilled life. Now, this is not new information. You know, Colleen's brilliant at helping you really understand how powerful you are. The speakers at the summit coming up in March will help you discover this. This is, I certainly don't hold the corner on this. I think I bring a different twist to it, but I don't hold the corner on really understanding how to unlock this power that is you. So what happens? What happens between it's like, oh, Felicia, I get it. I believe you. I know this. What happens from that enthusiasm to where you actually see the results in your life and you see the gap? Why the gap? What goes on? Well, what happens is that your head starts talking. You get a big, bold dream, desire, and your head starts talking about, oh my God, that's so much work. I don't know if I really want to do this. That what are the other people in my life going to think? Am I going to have to take away from them? Am I going to have to choose between really building out my vocation or maybe having good relationships or a love relationship in my life? Your head starts talking and starts chipping away at the dream. And I'm going to be talking more about that here in a moment. Another big one is I should just be grateful for what I have. I get that. I get all of that. So this was me several years ago when life was going really well. So I discovered when I'm sharing with you, which I define them and other people define them as universal principle, universal laws. And I discovered these laws at a really dark time in my life that I was just hitting walls everywhere I turned around. And then one day, something literally fell into my lap that just woke me up in a way that I never knew was even possible. It's like I discovered a technicolor world of myself. Remember Dorothy walked, black and white, and she walked out of the house. For those of you who know The Wizard of Oz, and if you don't, go watch that movie. It's like my favorite movie in the whole world. But she walked out of the house when the tornado landed in Munchkin Land, and she walked out into a Technicolor world. And that's what it felt like when I discovered Universal Law, that I came out of the basement of myself and walked into this Technicolor world. Everything transformed. And yet there was still a longing inside of me. There was still a discontent. And the 2 areas that were real sticking points for me were the area of my vocation and my income. I wanted to grow both because I wanted to make a bigger impact in both. And I was doing all the things. I was getting help with enrollment. I was getting help with marketing and leadership. And and I had a vision board and I was saying affirmations. And this was back in the day before Abraham was around, but I was listening to the people that were, Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, that were, the predominant teachers back then. And my life was really good, but I was stuck. I mean, I was really stuck. I wasn't just a little stuck like Colleen talked about. I was stuck. Now, it was a good stuck, but the problem with stuck is that stuck is stuck, and stuck stinks no matter where it is. And that picture is me smiling on the outside, but I was literally dying on the inside. The two areas that I really wanted to grow, as I said earlier, were my vocation and my income. And I wanted to grow both because I wanted to make a bigger impact in both. And there was one initiative in particular that I poured my heart and soul into, thinking this was going to be the thing to bust the energy wide open. Well, it didn't. It fell flat. It was good. Like my life was good. But I was tired of good enough being good enough. That day is seared in the memory of my mind. I was living in Tennessee at the time. If you're from the South, you get what July feels like, in the South. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like 98 degrees outside, 97% humidity. We know heat. We just don't know that kind of humidity here in Arizona. And I'm out stomping the pavement, oblivious to the sweat pouring down my face, feeling this soul-sucking sense of frustration and disappointment. And my head was talking. I had a conversation going on in my head. And it was saying things to me like, maybe it's time for you to hang it up. Maybe you're just not cut out for this. Just go back and do what you know how to do. It's not a friendly voice. Then there was another voice that said, my God, you're working this hard now. Can you imagine if this thing really takes off? You won't have a life left, much less a marriage. And then there was this other little voice that said, maybe this is the universe's way, God's way, whatever you want to call it. It's a way of saying, just be happy, just be grateful for what you have. You've got so much. You've come so far. Just stop the striving. And then there was this insidious voice underneath that said, maybe you just don't deserve this much good. Whatever your voice is, I want you to join me in that hot July day. And how do I know you got a voice? Because you're breathing and you got a dream. They go hand in hand. So join me on this hot July day where I literally stopped in my tracks. And I said, no, I've got this dream. There's got to be a way for me to achieve it. And that's when I made a decision. And it's the kind of decision that you don't back up from. And my decision was, I didn't care what it was going to take. I was going to get the spiritual success stuff figured out. I also knew that I wanted help, very clear, systematic help from somebody who understood these laws, proved them in her own life, and cared deeply about whether or not I achieved them. And that's when I put myself at the feet of some of the most powerful human potential teachers on the planet. And I continue to be there. And as a result of that decision, I truly have discovered a paint by numbers spiritual success system that has fundamentally transformed my life. And this is what I get to share with you. So my life today, at the height of my frustration, I was serving maybe 30, 40 people a year. It was a decent work. I knew I wanted more. I have the honor of serving the dreams of impact of thousands of people around the world today. My income, now we're talking money as part of this. I'm in an industry where less than 10% cross the six-figure mark with coaching. I am very grateful to say that my company has generated millions of dollars over the years, allowing my husband to retire 7 years early. I'm able to contribute tens of thousands of dollars to organizations that are deeply meaningful to me. The woman in red is Cynthia Kersey, and I contribute highly to her organization, the Unstoppable Foundation. My health is better than ever. My relationships are great. Marriage, we've been together for 37 years, married for 35. Every area of my life continues to improve. Here's the thing I want you to understand. The results are great. I love my results. That's not the reason for that desire that brought you to this training today. Go back to what I said earlier, that you are this unlimited being with unlimited capacity to create. The only way this life force energy has of waking you up to more of your magnificence, more of your brilliance, is to give you a desire that you don't know how to do. That dream is not to check things off. It's to help you discover more of you. It's not to get things, it's to grow you. It's for who you become in the process. And this, my friend, my sister in impact, this is what we're up to. So if you're in for this, put your hand on your heart. Those of you that I can see, put your hand on your heart and say, I'm in. I'm in. And those of you in the Facebook group, I can see that you're in. All right. So there's my mentor, Mary Morrissey. Even after 13 years, I continue to work with her. All right. So we are digging in. So this is going to be a combination of me teaching, and then I'm going to give you some time to do some work. That this is a working workshop to give you some time. You set aside about 40 minutes. And so let's really make this worth your while, that you will walk away with the beginnings of some things that you can actually put into practice. All right. So 3-part formula for unprecedented success to break out of the stuck and really get your momentum going in all those areas, including money. All right. So the first step is the step of create. Now, go back to what I said earlier, that you are this remarkable being with unlimited capacity to create. Oop, let me back up. All right, turn this off. Ignore the man behind the curtain. There.
We can't see a man behind the curtain. It was perfect.
I know. Lots of Wizard of Oz references. You have this unlimited capacity to create. What is that creative capacity? It's your thinking capacity. I love that quantum physics is now proving, what spiritual masters have taught throughout the ages, that what you predominantly mentally rehearse in this amazing faculty of your imagination and charge with your feelings actually has a signal. You're transmitting a signal. There's a vibration to it. There's a frequency, a vibrational wave that's literally leaving you and then beginning to communicate with a field of energy, where quantum physics have proven that there are waves of unformed energy hanging out in what they call superposition. And according to your predominant thought and feeling, which defines your identity, which I'm going to talk more about in step 2, that it literally becomes an energetic signature, in some fantastical way, it organizes around that predominant image that you are mentally rehearsing and that you are feeling a whole bunch of feels around as you're seeing it in your imagination. If you can conceive it, believe it, you can achieve it, in the words of Napoleon Hill. Now, again, this is not new information, but what happens is that when we're in a setting like this, or, where you've got my arms around you, you've got Colleen's arms around you as partners in believing and looking you in the eye and knowing that you are capable, that when we're in settings like this, then absolutely you believe it. But when you get out into the world and you're making sandwiches for your kids, or you're answering a text message from your husband who said he forgot to pick up the sour cream on the way home, or, you're stuck in traffic. I lived in Southern California for 8 years, and, you're stuck in the sanctuary of the 405. You forget this and you start filling your imagination with the images that are around you, and you start believing more in what's in your checkbook and what's on your calendar, what other people are saying to you, the opinions of others, your history. You start believing more in those things than you do in the images. When you really understand that image, I want you to write this one down. Image is supreme to form. Let me say that again. Image, your mental capacity, your imagination is supreme. It has authority. It's stronger than the forms in your life. In fact, the forms are not the reason why you can't do something. The forms are simply the archaeological reflection of what you have been thinking and believing up to that point. When we understand that the power resides here, this is the genesis of all creation, then you can look at your world and you can let your world be what your world is, knowing that you have the capacity to create anything that you can think of. All right, so just breathe on that. Big breath with that. I know that's a lot. I can be a little bit of a fire hose, so just hold on with me and you'll have the recording to keep coming back to. All right, so let me share with you Mary's story because she illustrates beautifully what I'm talking about here. When I met Mary, she was already a successful alternative healthcare provider. She was high five figures, had a really robust alternative medical practice, and she was humming along. But when I met her, she came to me and she said, I'm exhausted. She was working 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week. And Mary has this huge heart and a lot of people in her life that were really struggling that she felt responsible for helping. There was this kind of edge in the back of her mind of maybe she wanted to grow what she was doing. But man, when she started thinking about it, she was exhausted and felt irresponsible in the face of it. Nevertheless, Mary came to a training very similar to the one that you're sitting in here right now with me, whether you're watching live on the replay. And Mary heard me talk about two things that I'm going to share with you now. One of them is that her desire is a divinely designed desire. It's not her wanting something. It's the universe wanting something through her. That's the first thing she heard. And then the second thing that she heard was that there is no private good. What's good for her is good for everybody. That gave Mary hope. And so Mary became willing to step in and really begin to work with that first step, which is create and work with the most powerful, potent, holiest of all questions that you can work with. And there's another thing I want you to write down, which is, what would I love? What would I love? What would I love to do, have, be, go, give? What would I love? Understanding that it is the force of love itself, seeking that richer, freer, fuller expression through you and by means of you. That was a scary thing for Mary to ask that question because she was afraid it was going to mean more work. And she was afraid that she was going to be letting people that she loved down. Nevertheless, Mary's divine desire was bigger than her need to try to manage her world. And as a result of leaning in, she discovered she really did want to grow her work. And she wanted it to be easy. Not knowing how to do that, she leaned into the other two steps that I'm going to be giving you. She stared down the fear. She stared down the guilt, allowed this process to transform her at depth. And Mary's life today is unrecognizable. Mary grew her business. She has more than tripled it at this point, but she's not working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. She's working 20, maybe 30 hours a week. And her family that were really struggling, when Mary started really leaning into what was bringing her most alive, it's an interesting thing, but her family members started discovering parts about themselves that they weren't aware of before and started building out their own lives that they love. Mary today has time to go do things like be on the senior dance team of the Cleveland Cavaliers, where she's, been out there on the basketball court, shaking her booty and just having fun as she's building out a really good work of helping people transform their lives and their health and their well-being. But here's the really powerful thing that Mary shares. When she talks about this transformation that happens, she says she loves the results, but the real important thing is that for the first time, Mary gets that she matters and her dream matters. All right. So with that, my question for you is, and let's take a few moments and journal on this. And so if you've got something that you're taking notes on, I want you to literally pick up a pen, listen to yourself, and I'm going to put some music on. This is, that grateful for the tech that I have, so you'll be able to hear the music and to really pay attention to what is the big, bold dream knocking at the door of your heart. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I can play music, Colleen, because it's going into a Facebook group, and I don't know licensing and all of that. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes to do some journaling on when you really listen. What is that big, bold dream that life is asking you to create? What's your answer to the question, what would I love? So just take a moment or two and journal on that. And then if you're so inclined to put that in the chat here on Zoom, if you're here with us live, or in the Facebook group, as you're watching from the Facebook group. And I'll make sure I go back into the group and read your comments and comment on those as you're sharing. All right. So with that, let's jump to step 2. So step 2 is calibrate. Now, remember I talked about how the purpose of your dream is to actually help you discover more of your amazingness, more of your magnificence, more of who you are created to be. Here's the thing to understand. You, me, Colleen, all of us are right now a perfect fit for our current life. We're not a fit for our dream life. We need to come into a higher version of ourselves. Remember, the dream is the mechanism that helps you discover more of who you are created to be. It's literally here to expand you and stretch you and grow you. If you're not shaking in your boots at the thought of what brings you most alive, what would I love? It's not big enough. Who you are today, you want something that excites you and scares you to death all at the same time. Because the purpose of this is to help you grow into an even more magnificent version of yourself. So it calibrates you into a higher version of you. You become that vibrational match for it. An even more accurate way of saying it is that you grow to where you belong in that world. You know, how many times has something happened and you've had that imposter syndrome, right? And you keep thinking it's going to get snatched away. Oftentimes that's the roller coaster, up and down and up and down, that you don't really feel like you belong in that life. I often call that episodic manifestation, that people know how to work their vision board, say their affirmations long enough to get the thing, but they don't feel like it belongs to them. They don't feel like that they belong in that life. It's this piece right here. It's coming into a higher calibrated version of yourself where that life is now your normal. The thing about really building out a life of full spectrum wealth with money and relationship and vocation, it's not a one-shot deal. It's a new routine. You're building out a new routine. And in order to belong in that routine, you have to come into a higher calibrated version of yourself. Can you all see this? And if you go back to what I shared earlier, that what you're running in your imagination, your vision and your feeling create your energetic signature. This energy field that I talked about when we first got started organizes around the predominant energy that you are projecting, your energetic signature. Your dream is asking you to grow that, for you to come into a higher version of you, so the energy can then consistently, not just now and then, but consistently organize differently. If we don't understand this, what happens is that you receive, you hear, you see this big, bold dream from who you are today, and you water it down to match who you are today. The problem with a watered down dream is that you get a watered down life. You don't want a watered down life. When you understand that your dream is inviting you into this even more, you're already amazing. You're already remarkable. And now the dream is asking you to discover even more of your amazingness and come into a higher calibrated version of yourself. When you understand that, then you understand that you are fully equipped to achieve and create anything that you can think up. All right. So I do occasionally work with the heart-centered guys in the world. And so I wanted to share Brian's story, that I know this is a women's community, and for you to see that it works for everybody. So when I met Brian, Brian is like the perfect trifecta. He's an attorney, he's a financial advisor, and he's an insurance agent. He's licensed and certified and, degreed in all three areas. And what Brian wanted to do was to build out a one-stop shop where somebody could come and get all those needs taken care of under his umbrella. And so he began to study with the big boys, where, he was learning how to digitally market online, digital, it's online. But so he was learning how to do online marketing, pouring his heart and soul into it, pouring a boatload of money into it. In fact, he was pouring so much money into it that his wife was having to work a job that really just sucked the life out of her. So Brian, being the logical guy that he was, and with a worldview that said you need to be reasonable, and if something's not working, it's time to abandon it. He watered it down to match where he was today, and he did the wise thing. He did the logical thing. He went back to work. He got a job generating anywhere between, with benefits and everything, it was right around 300,000. Every time Brian had to check in or walk in the door, he checked his soul at the door. That's when he came to it. And he was doing some dabbling and affirmations and vision boards, but none of it was working. And that's when he came to a training that I put on. And he heard me talk about two things in relationship to calibrate yourself to match your dream. One of them, he heard me talk about zipping yourself into the skin of the person who achieved it before a single thing in your world gives you permission. That we literally put on the identity of the person who achieved this business, who achieved this level of financial success, who has the love relationship that you long for. The other thing that he heard me talk about was this concept of assumed success. Most people go into activities, hoping, kind of holding their breath, wondering if it's going to work. When you learn how to develop, Colleen is brilliant. Colleen, you just ooze assume success, that there's no wavering in you, that when you make a decision to build something out, you are so solid in the assumed success, and your world organizes accordingly. Brian heard me talk about what it is to assume success before a single thing in your world changes. And he realized that those were missing components for him. And so he stepped in and we got going. And Brian got really clear that he wanted to build out this one-stop shop offering all of these services. And he didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. And so after some time working with these principles that I'm sharing with you, Brian made the decision to step out and start building his business again. And what he wanted to do was to replace his income. It was scary. He had to talk to his wife. They had to really assume this time that it was going to work. And guess what? It did. Brian did replace his income, and he did it within 6 months. The only difference was that Brian was learning how to unlock this formula, learn how to vision, learn how to put it on. Work with the third step that I'm going to be sharing here with you in a moment. The other caveat that Brian wanted was that he wanted it to be easy. He didn't want to have to go out and hustle and work hard. And things are happening. Like Brian goes out to eat with his wife, and they're sitting there waiting for a table, and they get into a conversation with another couple that's waiting for a table. Those people get on his calendar, and they end up becoming clients. What's happened? Brian is attracting things out of the blue. Where's the blue? He's at that calibration where those opportunities and ideas are hanging out, and he's making himself available to those things. The biggest gift that Brian talks about is when he talks about how for the first time in his life, he really understands that the universe has got his back. That life used to be such a scary proposition for him. And for the first time in his life, he really gets it, that he's loved and supported, and the universe has got him. So my question for you, my friends, is who is your dream asking you to become? And there's a part B to this question. What does assumed success look like when it comes to your desire? No matter what the area is, full spectrum wealth. What is it that your dream is asking of you? What does assumed success look like for you? So take a few moments and let's just do some journaling on that. And then if you're so inclined to share that in the comment section. Who is your dream asking you to become? What does assumed success look like? I'm going to encourage you to really come back and work with these questions afterwards, because this is the foundation of your creation. This is the foundation of your wealth. And you can see how absolutely we can apply it to money. And I'm going to be going deeper in during the summit in Phoenix on March 22nd. I'll be going deeper specifically into money and some ways to really dive deep into money. And this formula fits no matter what the situation. All right. Number 3, step 3, construct. Now, in the words of Jim Carrey, you can't just visualize and go to the kitchen and make a sandwich. You got to take action. And so we've got your vision. You are beginning to calibrate. You're beginning to see yourself as the person who achieved this, as the person who's living this. Now we want to take action steps. But the thing about it is that you don't want to just take any action steps, and you don't want to take action steps from a place of trying to make it happen. You take action steps from or trying to figure it out, but you're taking inspired action steps. There's something magical that happens when you begin to really play in the realm of your vision, not just on and off, now and then, looking at your vision board, but it consumes you. You know, in the words of Joe Dispenza, it is the loudest voice in your head. Your vision is the most predominant movie that you're showing, and that you are so relating to that vision that there is no other world. What happens is that you start doing what's called establishing state. You're generating state. You are literally coming into a whole new state of being. You think differently. Different areas of your brain light up, and you're literally tapping into a stream of intelligence that's always guiding us. Here's the thing. When you really understand that that desire is a divinely designed desire, and that you begin to see who your dream is asking you to become, and you're putting that on now, it literally taps you into ideas and opportunities that have always been there. Those people for Brian had always been there. He just wasn't at a state. He wasn't calibrated at a state in order to be able to receive them and to be willing to speak up, take the action when he's divinely inspired to do that. When we don't understand that we have everything required and that we are constantly being divinely inspired with our next action step, you get into the hustle mode. You literally get into the mode of pushing the river, figuring it out. There's one more thing that I can do. I got to make this work. And what happens when you're functioning from that state of awareness is that you literally become exhausted, and that's when you become stuck. Things just slow way down. And when we're talking about money, it's almost as if somebody just cuts off the faucet with money. When you understand that as you work with those other 2 steps and you open yourself up to constantly receive the constant guidance that's always there, then you know there's nothing for you to figure out. It's just simply being aware of what the next step is and taking it from a place of deep service, that you're no longer taking action steps to try to get something, but now you can take steps truly from a place of deep service, and you're constructing your life. All right. So Julie, Let me tell you Julie's story again to show you what this looks like in real time. Julie was another one of those highly successful beings. She had and still has a direct sales company. It works for, a major direct selling, or has a business with a major direct selling organization here in the US. And she was shown as an example. Her husband retired 10 years early. She built their dream home, put her kids through college. And when I met Julie, Julie was another one who came up to me and said, she was funny. She was like, I'm done. I'm just done. I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. She did it at her expense. She did it at the expense of her health, the expense of her relationships, the expense of fun, of just having a sense of fun. And Julie was ready to walk away from it all. All she wanted to do was to be an adventure grandmother. But the thing about it was that Julie loved what she was doing. And she had gone through so much personal development. I mean, she had seen it all, heard it all. But when she came to hear my training, she heard me talk about something she had never heard me talk about before. And that was this concept of learning how to make it welcome rather than making it happen. And Julie knew that that was a missing piece. And so she stepped in and we got going. And Julie got clear that she wanted to build this workout. She wanted to continue doing what she was doing. And then she had this divinely inspired idea of doing it 3 days a week and being adventure grandmother, joyous Julie, adventure grandmother, for 4 days a week. She didn't have an ounce of evidence, not a shred of evidence to suggest that she could do that. In fact, every cell in her being fired off saying, this is insanity. I'm going to drive my family into the ground. Nevertheless, as she kept working with this formula that I shared with you today and kept seeing the vision, kept putting on being that person, assuming success, taking the next action that was revealed, and stayed faithful to those 3 days, Julie's desire was to maintain her income. Julie didn't maintain her income. She grew it by 40%. Wow, she's in a book club. Wow, she's going out and hanging out with her grandkids. Wow, she's taking weeks at a time to go play with her husband and be with friends and take her grandkids on trips. She's now being called upon by other people in her organization to show them how to do it more easily, more productively, in a way that is truly life-giving. The real gift that Julie talks about, she loves what's happening in her life. She loves her results. The real gift is that Julie talks about how for the first time in her life, she truly understands the concept of flow. So, what is your next big, bold, inspired step toward your vision? Just take a moment and jot down a couple of ideas. What do you know is your next big, bold, inspired step toward your vision? All right. All right. So let's do a summary as we bring this in for a wrap. So 3 steps. Number 1, create. Know that you can create and know what you want to create. Work with that question. What would I love? Knowing that it is love itself wanting to make itself known to you and through you. Step number 2, calibrate. You become a vibrational match. You become an even better version of yourself. So you belong in that life. And then number 3, construct. You're tapping into the stream of intelligence to take those consistent, courageous, inspired, bold action steps. All right. So that's the formula. Now, I don't know that I said this, but those of you who want to keep this going, there's a couple of ways that we can do this. If you're on Zoom, so here's what I've done. Vision is foundational to everything. And so what I did was that I took my 15 years of, actually 25, 30 years now of being what's called a New Thought minister, where I actually had a church where I taught these principles, the spiritual basis of how to work with these universal laws. And took all of that and developed what's called my vision toolkit. I created a meditation to really help you listen deeply to what is it that you would really love. I've given you instructions to understand the art and the science of vision writing, to write your vision out. And then I've given you a daily practice to know what to do with that vision. So if you're on Zoom, there's a couple of ways of grabbing it. You can put your email and the word vision in the comment section. If you're on Facebook, you can put dream in the comment section, and I'll go back to the Facebook group and grab that. And if you don't want to do that, the other way that you can do this is there's the link, FeliciaSearcy.com. Colleen's got it in the link here on Zoom. We'll put it in the comment section on in the Facebook group, but FeliciaSearcy.com/spiritual success. Now, let me say this. I know that this group is a highly spiritually sophisticated group. And I want to support you in really coming down into a much greater degree of granular understanding of this and allowing me to help you understand how to unlock the power of vision as you then apply the other two steps. That it would be my joy to support you with that. So grab that. And then just in, as a footnote, I do have a 3-day event coming up in April where we're going to take a deep dive into this formula. It's in Tucson. It's in person. Colleen's amazing event is a series of speakers. This is me. I will be pouring into you for 3 days to really help you listen deeply to what's coming alive and unlock that power. And so if you'd like more information for that, if you're in the Facebook group, just put event in the comment section and I'll make sure that I get that to you as well. And, we'll go back and forth over direct messaging and I can give you more details for that. So, all right. So that's how we can keep this going. That's how you can go deeper in this information. We'll put all that information in comments section. So let's wrap this up. Alfred Adler, famed psychologist, once said that he gave thanks for the idea that sought to use him. I give thanks to the dream that seeks to use you, because here's what I know. When you say yes to what brings you most alive, your life transforms. Absolutely, your life gets better. An even more delicious gift is that all of our lives get better. When you're living a life that you love, truly, my friend, this is how we transform the face of the planet. God bless.
That was amazing.